What's up, Hudgens? It's time to settle some, some crazy talk. I'm going to wait till I at least get 20, 25 people live. I know a lot of people were probably having to go and follow the page. I didn't want to go from my page because a lot of people that is watching may not be friends of mine on Facebook. Robert Flood, Kevin Hudgens. Yeah, we're going to wait for a few more to get in. I'm sure this is going to be very controversial, but you know I love controversy, so I'm ready for it. I'm ready for all the smoke, all the heat that comes with it. Yes, we're going to be discussing the top 13 players from the 5th region in the last. We're going to give 40 years. I think that's fair because a lot of these young guys that talk about how good they were and how good that some of these other kids were. They don't really know the players that were way before them. So I'm going to stick with the last 40 years. We're going to do 40 years. And then for the top 5 programs in the 5th region, we're just going to do the top 5 programs, period. And I do have facts to support everything that I'm going to be talking about, whether it's the players or the teams. My partner, Mr. Tony, is on the road right now, so he's not going to be able to get on with us. But we always want to recognize Mr. Tony whenever we come live. We've been doing this for several years now. A lot of the things that you see from the Sporting Times, a lot of the things that you see from these other media outlets, we've been doing this. So we've just kind of been sitting in the background, letting these other people do their thing, but we're back. And we're ready to take it to a whole nother level. We're actually moving to the collegiate level now. We're still going to cover high school sports, but now we're moving to the college level. Anytime you watch a U of L or UK game, whether it be at the Yum Center or at Rupp Arena, if you look down on the floor, you'll always see Miss Patricia there taking photos, and you'll see Mr. Tony there videoing. We go hard in the paint, so everybody else is going to have to catch back up with us, starting here probably within the next few weeks. But what we're going to do first is I'm going to do the top 5 programs. There's been some good teams in the 5th region, and just because you went to a state tournament doesn't mean that you're a top program in the region. And these programs, I kind of have them ranked. I'm not going to rank the players, however. But the top 5 programs in the 5th region, in the history of the 5th region, we have to go with Marion County. Marion County lost in the state championship in 1992 to Dunbar, and then they came back and won it in 1993. And that was probably one of the most athletic teams that I've ever witnessed or actually played against. We played against them in the summer. We didn't get a chance to play them in the regular season or in the postseason. But Marion County, the 1993 Marion County team, definitely hands down the best team that's been assembled. They had Elton Scott, they had Anthony Epps, they had Michael Douglas, they had Al Brady. The list just goes on, and those guys were so fun to watch. So that's the number 1 program. Number 2, I'm going to have to say Elizabethtown. Elizabethtown, of course, they won the state championship in 2000. They would have won it. I really believe that Elizabethtown would have won the state tournament the COVID year, the year they had the twins. He's playing football at Kentucky Wesleyan. The name's not coming to me right away, but that was one of the best shooting teams I've ever seen. So I really feel like Elizabethtown, you know, they got robbed with COVID, so they would have had to. Third on the list is North Hardin. North Hardin was a very, very, very solid team in the 1980s, also in the 90s, and then in the early 2000s they were strong. Legendary coach Ron Bevers always had a team, always full of athletes. So we're going to go with North Hardin. Then we're going to go to Bardstown. Although Bardstown has never won a state championship, Bardstown has, for the last 25, 30 years, they've always had good teams to represent in the 5th regional tournament. And for the last 10 years, Boo Brewer always puts together a team. You know, regardless of their record, you can always bet that at the end of the season, they're going to be at the regional tournament. And usually they play more than one game. And this is where the controversy is going to happen. This is where everybody's going to say that I'm biased. But again, this is the top 5 programs ever in the 5th region. It has nothing to do with the last 20 years. It has nothing to do with the last 30 years. When you talk about the top teams in the 5th region, Caverna has to be there. One of the smallest schools in the state of Kentucky. But Caverna is one of the top 5 programs ever in the 5th region. If you want to argue with somebody, go to one of those other guys' pages. You know, Caverna's been to the state tournament as Caverna 4 times. But before the schools consolidated, I think Caverna's been to the state tournament a total of 11 or 12 times. And I would be very confident in saying that that's a leader in the 5th region. You know, Caverna had Horse Cave High School and Cave City High School. You know, the talent level, Caverna had a first-round draft pick. The same era that Clem Haskins played. You know, Clarence Glover was there. But they also had guys that, you know, these young cats that talk about, you know, what they did, and they played in the early 2000s. Man, them guys don't know basketball. The level of competition was so much different then. So that's our top 5 programs. The top 5 is Marion County, Elizabethtown, North Hardin, Bardstown, and Caverna. Now, you know, modern day, John Hardin's had a good program. No denying that. Adair County has had a good program. No denying that. There's been some teams that have had a couple of good years, but when you talk about the overall programs, those are the top 5. Now we're going to move to the top. I'm going to do the top 13 players in the last 40 years. You know, if you happen to be watching and your name's not on the list, I'm sorry, but this is my list. I actually consulted this list with a couple of guys that were state champions, and they mirrored my list quite a bit. The top 13 players in the last 40 years. Number 1, and I said I wasn't going to rate these, but I am going to rate the top 2. Number 1 is Tick Rogers. Mr. Basketball, the first Mr. Basketball from the 5th region. So we've got to make him number 1. Tick was, you know, I was fortunate to play against Tick for 3 years. Tick was an absolute monster on the court. You know, I watched him play Oak Hill Academy. Oak Hill Academy had 12 Division I players on their team, and Hart County almost beat them under the play of Tick Rogers. The second, number 2, is the second Mr. Basketball from the 5th region, Elton Scott. Elton Scott did things as a 6'7" guard that I'd never seen before. And one of the things that was impressive about Elton Scott was Elton actually played in the Big East. Elton Scott played in the Big East when Allen Iverson was at Georgetown. The Big East was a monster when Elton Scott was at West Virginia and when he was playing in the Big East. So those are number 1 and 2. Now the list is not necessarily in any specific order. Kevin Ellery, Washington County. Kevin Ellery played at Notre Dame. A lot of people's forgotten about Kevin Ellery. Kevin Ellery dominated the 5th region when he was there. Another Mr. Basketball, Stephon Pettigrew. Stephon Pettigrew was also Mr. Basketball at Elizabethtown. Had a great career, went down to Western and played. Really special athlete. Robbie Valentine from North Hardin. Of course, we all know Robbie Valentine. He did go to the state tournament. Robbie Valentine was a great 5th region player. Went on to further his collegiate career at the University of Louisville. Still does hang around the program. Very well-known guy. Then we're going to go with Jason Woodard. Probably one of the most underrated players ever in the 5th region. Jason Woodard. Not showing favoritism. You can talk to anybody that played against Jason. Jason was a silent killer. The thing that I tell these kids today at Caverna is the thing that made Jason Woodard special is you didn't know if Woody had 40 or if he had 4. He played with no emotion. Played the same all the time. Never clapped in people's faces. Remember one time he dunked on, I think he dunked on Troy Bird at Caverna. You know, Caverna, Hart County's a big rival. He dunked on Troy Bird and just ran back down the court like it was nothing. Very special player. Then we're going to go with Boo Brewer for Bardstown. Everybody knows Boo Brewer. Boo was a very different athlete. You know, at the time, Boo was actually a really good football player as well. But Boo played at U of L. And again, after the top 2, these are in no specific order. There's not an order that I'm ranking these players in. Then you got Anthony Epps, probably the best point guard to ever play in the 5th region. Won a state championship, also won a national championship in 1996 with the Kentucky Wildcats. And probably, I'm not a Kentucky fan, but many people say that that's one of the best teams ever assembled at Kentucky. So Anthony Epps. Then you got Antoine Barber. Antoine Barber was an absolute stud. Led his team to a state tournament run. Also, I think he went JUCO. Then he transferred over to UK and made a lot of noise at UK. And then probably the best player to ever play at Adair County. A lot of people didn't like his attitude. They didn't like how he played. But in the early 1990s, he brought swag to the 5th region. Remember, I watched him play Hart County in the regional tournament, and they had breakaway pants. And he came out to starting lineups and popped his pants off at the end of the line. And then he proceeded to give Hart County the business. And that's Bryson Walkup. Bryson Walkup was very smooth, had a great jumper. If he caught you in the lane, you was dunked on. Very solid athlete. Then you got Marlis Scott, Lil Bro to Elton. Marlis, if you've watched basketball in the 5th region in the last 30 years, you have to know who Marlis Scott is. Then we're going to go to Taylor County. Taylor County, you have to put Quentin Gooden in those top 13 players. And what's a tragedy is my last 2 are Quentin Gooden and Mason Faulkner. The tragedy is that they both played in the 5th region, and they both won co-5th region player of the year, which meant that they were both a candidate for Mr. Basketball. And the tragedy with that is that Carson Williams, they gave that man Mr. Basketball because you couldn't pick between Mason and Quentin. And I'm partial to Mason. The thing that people don't realize with Mason is I saw Mason Faulkner score 200 points in 1 week. 1 week. First week of the season. mean, he scored 50 against Hart. I think he scored 54, 55 against Taylor. He scored another 40, whatever, against Fort Knox. And then he, so that was Monday, Tuesday. They played Thursday, Friday. Scored 200 points in 1 week. It's unheard of. Finished his career with almost 3,400 points. Those are the best players from the 5th region in the last 40 years. Now, I was scrolling through Facebook today, and I saw a post talking about the streak of LaRue County. LaRue County's had a good team. No, that can't take that away from LaRue County at all. They've been pretty solid for several years. And then I saw another guy come on and talk about Greene County. And then I was basically told, hey, leave that conversation to us. But, Caverna was mentioned. And everybody that knows me knows that I go hard for Caverna. When nobody else does, I do. So basically that post was basically saying that there's only two, but the way I took it was, Hart County and Caverna didn't exist. For the last, 15 years, they were saying that basically that LaRue and Greene ran the district. Well, hold your horses there, buddies. In the last 20 years, there's only been one team from the 5th region. From the 18th district to play in the state tournament. And that was the Caverna Colonels. Recruiting is a big topic now. So people say if you guys didn't have boards, here's what you guys need to realize. When you were an independent school, you are allowed to have international students move from other countries to go to school at your school. Josh, I don't look, this is my post, brother. You basically kicked me off your post. I didn't ask about any shout outs about the 2004. I'm saying what I read. Now, tell me, in the last 20 years, what has Greene County or LaRue County accomplished that Caverna hasn't in the 18th district? I'll wait. Absolutely nothing. Paul Childress is a great coach. He has won the district tournament several times. But Caverna is the team from the 18th district that went to the state tournament. The conversation's over. Now, let's talk about the Class A. Now, if you want to talk about the Class A in the 5th region, there's several teams in the Class A. But who's represented the 5th region the most at the Class A state tournament? I'll wait for some comments on that too. I'll wait. The All-A Classic, the Class A, which is what, Kentucky's one of the only states in the United States that still has a one state tournament, and that's why it makes Caverna great. I'm sorry, not Caverna, the 5th region great is because it doesn't matter how big or how small your school is. There's only 16 teams that makes it, but they also have a Class A, which is what we really need to play in. We really need to be in the Class A. So in the Class A, what team in the 5th region has dominated the 5th region in the Class A? I'm waiting for comments. If anybody wants to share what your thought is or what you may think, I'm waiting. I've got a few minutes. We went through the list of the top 13 players. We went through the top 5 programs. Now we went to Class A. Now we're at the Class A. What school has dominated the 5th region in the Class A? Ricky Roy, smart man, Caverna. Caverna's been 7 times, and their record is 11-7. And if you go back and look, every year that Caverna has went to the Class A, the team that won it is the team that beat Caverna. So it's not like we just go up there and we're one and done. That don't happen. Doesn't happen. So yeah, I get a little perturbed when everybody goes around and acts like Caverna don't exist. Yeah, I have a problem with that. Chris Hudgens, you were exactly right. It has to be Caverna. It has to be. Now, do I discount Bardstown and what they did in the Class A? Absolutely not. Do I discount Greene County and what they did? Absolutely not. Actually, one of the kids from Greene County almost made my list. Dom almost made the list because of his performances at the Class A. Dom actually broke a record. He has 2 records in the Class A. And that's what I tell people. You know, when you talk sports, man, it's not just Caverna that I know. I know all of it because that's what I do. I'm a sports guy. But Dom has the most free throws and the most points in a game, and he broke the most points in a game. He broke that record from my cousin Marcus Boyd from Caverna. Dom almost made the list, but I really couldn't justify putting him above any of those 30. Anybody that has any comments? How many D1 players have came out of Caverna? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're just boys. It's just boys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chris, I got to give Dom. I'm giving him his credit because Don could play. Don was good. Don was good. And hey, Tyree Pippen. A lot of people don't know that William Bradley was ranked in the top players in the country right along with O.J. Mayo, who had a lengthy NBA career. William Bradley was one of the very special, very, very special. But we're going back to D1 players. Hudgens, I'm sorry. I don't know. Marion County's had quite a few D1 players on the boys' side. I know E-Town's had a few. North Hardin, Bardstown. Yeah, I said Dom. Yeah, Dom Compton. Yeah, I know that, Josh. I think Caverna's had at least 7 Division I players, Hudgens. I don't know. I'm not going to say that's the most in the 5th region, but had a lot. We've had a lot. But like I said, Clem Haskins, if you go the history of the 5th region, Clem Haskins is going to be the most decorated player ever in the 5th region. But again, some of these young guys have no clue. I mean, they know who Clem Haskins is because the court's named after him. Yeah. I don't know why Josh is so controversial with me. If I post it's raining outside, usually Josh has something to come back and say. So I'm just going to let that ride. He said it sounds like I'm saying Don instead of Dom. But I'm saying Dom. I know who Dom Compton is. I watched him for years. Actually, a friend of my son. So, yeah. Give me some more questions since we're on here. Give me some more questions of what you guys would like to know or what you think. The district championship game is Friday night. Jason Woodard, good to see you on. Just want to let you know that you did make the top 13 players in the last 40 years in the 5th region. Silent Killer. That's the name that I gave you. Jacob Payne, Clem had several brothers that could play, but Clem was by far the best. By far the best. But back to the 18th district championship game, Friday night. You have, I think in the last poll that I saw, which, I'm not big on polls, that they mean absolutely nothing to me, at all levels, the NBA, college, NFL, it doesn't matter. Friday night, Caverna versus Greene County. I think Greene County's coming in at 22-3. Somebody from Greene County correct me. Highly favorite. They're their highest favorite team in the region. Caverna has had a season of being up and down. They have been very high, but they've also been very low. I didn't watch the second Greene County Caverna game live. I was sick, so I didn't get to go to the game. I went to the first game. Some very unfortunate things happened in that first game. I don't think either team was proud of what happened. There was a lot of loose talk on Facebook, and it is what it is. First of all, kids are going to be kids, and when adults get involved with what kids are doing, that's what makes it a problem. That's what makes it a problem. You got to let kids be kids. Now, I'm not saying that you should let kids go out and act crazy, but you got to let kids be kids. You got to remember, most of the people on here watching are young men, and we all played with attitudes, but Jody Marr wanted me to humor him with my prediction. So here it goes. There's always a if. If Caverna stays out of foul trouble, Caverna wins. That's what I think. I think Caverna has the best 5 in the region. That's my opinion. But we all know that once those 5 get in foul trouble, then it becomes a problem because the bench isn't deep. Do I discount Greene County? Not at all. Greene County has a great team. They've had a great season. But as far as 5 and 5, I think our 5 is better than Greene's first 5. But Greene has a bench. Greene, if Greene County's hitting threes, if the little Stone kid is hot, if the Willis kid is hot, it's hard to beat them. It's hard to beat them. I give Jayden Marr his credit. Blakeman, I give them all their credit. They can play. But again, I can't say that those kids from Caverna don't play. I think Jalen Crane is the best point guard in the state. The guys in Lexington laugh at that. But that's my opinion. Just like they pick who they want to pick, I pick who I say. So who do I think is going to win Friday? The team with the most points. Is that fair enough, Jody? The team that scores the most points. No, I think it depends on how physical the officials let the game get. I think that, I think Cortavion Maxey is the biggest part to that puzzle for Caverna. Cortavion keeps his head and he plays to his potential. I think it's going to be a lot better game than most people think. But I don't know. I mean, of course, I'm rolling with Caverna. It's what I do. I'm not sometimey. I'm not wishy-washy. I said this on one of my first interviews on KySports.TV. If Caverna's playing the Lakers, I'm rolling with Caverna because that's just what I do. Now, regardless of what happens Friday, I think that a lot of coaches have to change their game plan now because I'd say 95% of the coaches in the 5th region did not expect Caverna to be playing in the regional tournament. It just is what it is. So when you play a team as athletic as Caverna, I mean, you have to change your game plan. You got to change it. Since I'm seeing that there's a lot more people on, let me run back down that list real quick. The top 13 players in the 5th region in the last 40 years: Tick Rogers, Anthony Epps, Kevin Ellery, Stefan Pettigrew, Elton Scott, Jason Woodard, Robbie Valentine, Boo Brewer, Antoine Barber, Bryson Walkup, Marlis Scott, Quentin Gooden, and rounding out the list is Mason Faulkner. Top 5 programs in the 5th region ever. The top 5 programs: Marion County, Elizabethtown, North Hardin, Bardstown, Caverna. That's what we came up with. I'm not going to do the girls tonight. We're going to wait and do the girls at a later date. I want to catch all this heat from the boys first. But whoever wins Friday, whether it be Greene County or Caverna, may the best team win. But I think both of those teams have the chance to play in the championship of the 5th region. How great would that be to have the 18th district playing for the 5th regional championship? That'd be great. But you got to watch out. You got Adair County, Bardstown. You still got North Hardin. You still got a lot of teams that's going to be there. But that's where we're at tonight. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We will be doing more interviews. We'll be doing more podcasts. We're just getting ready to put the pressure on everybody until about, I've got 30 days here to do spring football. And then I'll have a good solid month off. So I won't be able to be on the camera during football season. But as soon as football season's over, basketball next year is going to be bananas. I'm not even going to say crazy. I'm going to say bananas, because we're going to do some stuff that really don't know if a lot of these other places are ever going to be able to catch up to us. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Tony and Patricia, for all the work that you've done for KY Sports TV. Thank you guys for bringing me on as a partner. And just a quick story of how hard I go for Caverna. A lot of people may not know how I got involved with KY Sports TV, but Mason Faulkner was a junior in high school, and Tony had put out these predictions for the season, and he was Quentin Gooden heavy, and we were on Twitter, and I commented and asked him, I said, hey, what about the Faulkner kid from Caverna? And he said he's got to prove himself. And, fair enough. The first game of the season, he put up 48, I think. So I get another message back, and was like, hey, he had a good game. Can he do it again? So the next game puts up 55. And I had never met Tony. We had never laid eyes on each other. And he came and covered a game at Caverna, and I was there, and I see him in a KY Sports TV shirt, and I was like, hey, who's the boss at KY Sports TV? He's like, why are you asking? And I said, well, I've been going back and forth with a guy. He was like, you're T. Hayes 21. I was like, yeah. And he said, well, I'm Mr. Tony. And we took that conversation and before we built a partnership, we built a friendship. And we've been rocking hard ever since. And like I said, they're at every Kentucky home game, every Louisville home game. That's football and basketball, girls and men and women. They'll go out and do baseball, just everywhere. And I will say this, they are the 2 hardest working media people I'm going to say in the state of Kentucky. I don't think anybody puts the miles in that Tony and Patricia does. And if you have a business that you want advertised, if you want to help get some of these kids notoriety, hit us up. We do have a Roku channel now, and we do run live programs on Roku, and we do playbacks. So again, thank you for watching. Those are my 5th region picks, and we'll see you guys next time.